Hello guys, so welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be talking about how to deploy machine learning model using Docker container. So these are the steps which we are going to discuss. So starting with model training. So I'll be training the model for Iris dataset, and then we'll create an API using Python Flask. So once we are done with these two steps, then we'll start deployment process. So here we'll create a Docker file. So we'll be talking about like each and every line of the Docker file, what it means basically. And once the Docker file is ready, then we'll build it to generate an image. So the moment image is generated, then of course we can create and run the container using that image. But of course, to achieve these two steps, so basically, so the prerequisite is like you need to have a Docker desktop running in your local system. So if you don't have Docker desktop, then make sure you download the Docker desktop from the official website and install it. So it won't create any problem. It's just normal software installation, okay? But still, if you face any problem, then just let me know using the comment. And once this container is up and running, then our API will be running inside that container. Then we can do the testing of that API by sending the request, HTTP request. So using HTTPS request, we will be testing that one. And then of course, we will be testing again using the curl request. So for different use cases, you could have a different scenarios. So we can test both using both the method. Okay. And then at the end, we'll also look inside the container terminal and see certain things there. So let's start basically. So let me open an Anaconda prompt. So for a basic model training. So as I said, I'm not going to spend much time there in model training because that is not the scope basically. So I assume we all know like how to do the model training and all. So let me go inside and then CD. Yeah, so I have created this folder. So let me activate the Conda environment also. So Conda activate MLOps. Okay. So I have explained also how to create the Conda environment. So you can refer that video if you are new here. And then inside that I can open the Jupyter notebook. So it will open in the browser. Yeah, it is opening here. So let me bring back it here. Okay, so now if you see here, it has opened this browser. So now here I have kept three things basically. One is the data folder, and one is like Flask API. So this I'm going to explain in a moment, and then let's start with Iris classifier. So here, basically, I'll be using this file. So this contains the data of iris different flower categories. Basically, there are three categories. So idea is like to create a classifier which classify these data into three different categories. Okay. So here I have created certain methods. So I'll not go much deeper in here, but let's quickly have a look. Like prepare data, so it will read the data from the Git repository and just do some basic pre-processing, not the deeper one. And then we'll have a trend test split. And so let me run it as well. So let me change the kernel so that we have all dependencies installed there. Okay, so let me quickly run this part. And then we have train basic classifiers. Here I'll be using the logistic regression. So normal machine learning training word. Okay, so this you train, and then we have certain method to predict basically, and then predict probabilities if you're interested to know the probabilities, and then get metrics. Okay, so let me run all the steps in one shot. So restart and run all. So let me do that thing, and then it will run it. So the moment it is running, so let me show this. So inside data, we don't have anything. So this is just now created, and some other file also will get created as this completes. So now if I go here, so let me refresh this. Yeah. So now we have model file available. We have XTest data available, train data available. So these are already utilized for model training. Okay. So now we got the model.pkl file. Okay. So now the thing is like how to create the API and deploy this using Docker container. Okay. So I have not spent much time till here because I assume you all are very much familiar with this machine learning model training part. Okay. So now let's open VS Code quickly. And here from the file menu, we can again open the same folder basically. So inside my project folder, so I'm opening this. Inside that I have the Python Flask API. So this folder exists. Okay. So now I open that folder. So here basically, don't get confused. So if you are doing along with me, so then for you it could be an empty folder. So just create few folder inside this Flask API. So don't get confused with .vs code. So this is the runtime. It gets created during runtime, so it won't be there for you. So just ignore that one and create a static folder. So it is empty. So basically, if you are working with Python Flask, it has some predefined structure. It has two folder. One is static, another is like templates, and then one app.py file. This is the bare minimum Python Flask structure. Okay, so inside a static, we keep all the CSS or jQuery related, JavaScript related files. Okay, for the everything on the client side, and then inside templates we have like HTML files. So more specifically, the Jinja template. Okay, so don't get confused with these heavy words like Jinja. Just think like this is normal HTML, and then we have a app.py file. Okay, and I copied this model.pkl, which we just now created from Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so now from the top, let's create a terminal. So here I'm creating a terminal basically, and then I need to again to have this. So don't look into this for a moment. I am going to explain every line. Okay, so hold for a second. So what you need to basically do so to run a Flask application, a Flask API, you need to have a Flask installed. So for that, what you can do, you using Python -m venv and any environment name. So you hit enter. So or you can just go to the command prompt. If PowerShell gives some time, it misbehaves basically. Okay, so same thing, Python -m venv and give any environment name. Okay, so this is the user defined name, and before that everything is syntax. Okay, so the moment you hit enter, it will create a new environment by named env name in this directory itself, because we are inside this directory. Okay, so you can create a fresh environment, but I already have an environment exist to folder back. So I'm going to folder back. Okay, and then here I have virtual environment exist. Yeah, virtual environment exist, and then this is how you can activate it. Okay, so now you see for me virtual environment got activated. Okay, so let me do this thing so that everything comes in one line. And now once you have environment created, and then this is how you can activate this environment in the Windows machine. But if you are using a Linux machine, you can simply do source and then define these things. It will get activated. Okay, so no worries. Now you can install certain dependencies. Mainly you need to install Python pip install Flask, and then you need to install joblib, then you need to install pandas, and then this is the only thing we need as of now. Okay, so if you don't have installed, then you install. But of course, by running, if you see okay any dependency is not installed, then you can install like this. It will everything will get installed inside virtual environment folder. Okay, so this is the thing. And now let's talk about app.py. So this is the first file we need basically to create the API. So here at the very top, if you see like I'm importing Flask. So using from Flask, import Flask, and then request for HTTPS request, and then render template will be rendering certain HTML template, and will be converting certain data to JSON format. So for that purpose, we need all these things. Okay, and then using joblib will be like saving or loading the model, and then pandas for certain processing steps. And then here I'm creating the app name. So Flask app names, using this app is equal to Flask and name. So you can create an app name in the Flask, and then here I'm defining the very first route. Okay, so here the moment you run I will be showing in a moment like how to run it basically. But the moment you run the application, the basic landing page, the very first page it opens, so that is recognized by this slash. Okay, so by this slash it understands okay it has to call this home method for the landing page. And then here I have index.html defined. Forget about all these next steps. I am coming back. So here we have we are at rendering index.html. Now let's see what is the content of index.html. Okay, so inside because see when so when this API will be running, so this API will be expecting CSV file, the data file basically, on which it has to do the prediction. right? So how to input that CSV file? So that is defined in the HTML file. So here in HTML, we need to have a certain JavaScript method like a Ajax call. So for that, we need to have a JS defined here. So for that, I'm importing this JS here, normal import, okay? So using a script, so this is how you can import. And then this is a basic HTML form created. So here using, so I'm just defining the form ID and style so that it is aligned on the center in HTML, okay? And then I have one input and one button basically. Okay, so what input does basically, it will create a browse button. So using that browse button, you can import the CSV file on which you want to perform the prediction. And then we have a submit button basically. On top of submit button, I'm calling get result JavaScript method. So using that, I can call this further method predict. So I will come here in a moment. So now let's see here what is get result defined. So here inside get result, I have, so this is very simple, guys, very easy thing, so don't get confused. So from there, the moment you hit submit button, it will call this get result. And then here I'm just reading the form data. So form data is nothing but I will be uploading the CSV file. And then we have a simple Ajax call. So Ajax call, basically it will take this form data and it will hit the this route, this predict route, because I have defined here predict slash predict. So whatever you define here, so it will just call the same method in app.py file. Okay, and this is because we are posting it, so we have defined the type as a post. Okay, and then this is the form data basically, and content type, and no need to specify anything basically, and cache to false, so that the second time you run, so it takes the freshly. Okay, and that's it. And whatever you return from this method basically, so I'm coming in a moment what is this basically. So but let me explain. So what you are returning here, whatever you will return, so it will be accepted. It will come here as a data. So whatever you define here, and then you can simply print so inside this ID. So dollar. So this is HTML part ID. So here I have defined one div basically. So whatever result I want to show, so I will be showing here. Okay. So this is one thing basically, guys. But using curl request, it will simply show you the output in the command line. So whatever this df is, it will be printed as it is. So we'll see both the part. Now comes to your predict function. So in predict function, basically what I'm defining, I'm accepting CSV file. So using request.files, I can get whatever file you are posting from the browser. So in upload file, so it will come as a binary. So you can just pass this file in the pd.read CSV. So it will be converted to data frames. Okay, and then if you want to again process this data frame by certain data validation steps, then of course you can create those data validation. So here, because as I said, my today's session scope is not to explain the complete machine learning life cycle. So that's where I'm just not define anything, but suppose you got the data and you want to process it, you want to prepare it for a model purpose. Okay, then you can define those things here and then return the data frame here. Okay, so again, I'm just returning here. So I'm just showing the steps. Okay, so now our data is ready to be predicted, and now we need to load the model. So what you can do with open model.pkl, so you can define wherever your model file exists here. So I have just kept it here. So you just read it like this, and then you can load the classifier using joblib.load. You can give this file names here in this classifier. This model will be loaded. Now you can simply do the predict classifier.predict. So whatever machine learning framework basically you are using, I'm using scikit-learn. So that's where here in the classifier.predict will work. But if you are using any other machine learning framework, then whatever predict function exists there, you need to use that one. Okay, but steps remain same. So now here you classifier.predict, it will return the prediction result, and those will be stored here. And that you can, so what I'm doing basically here, so we have a data frame. So inside data frame, I'm creating a new column. So basically, if you just for a moment, you just see this Excel. Okay, so this df contains this whole things. Okay, so not all the records, but whatever in the test file. Okay, so this contains this whole thing. But here I'm adding a new column to your data frame using predicted flower type, like here. Okay, so new column will be added here, and those predicted classes will be printed here. So this is what I'm doing in this. So basically just adding new column here, and then this converting this whole data frame to the JSON format, so that this JSON format can be returned here. And now this JSON data will be returned here, and this will be printed in the HTML. So that will that result will show here basically. Okay, so here you will see the result. So this is a whole thing, basically whole cycle. So now I hope you understood. And the next thing is like what to run this application, you need to do one more thing at the very end, basically. So like in C, we have a main method to start the program. Okay, to just the program starting point. So here also in the Flask, we have something like this. You need to define like that app.run. If you are running in debug mode, then you make it debug is equal to true, so that every debug statements will be visible here in the command line. And you can define the port, like in which port it will be running. So now you have done with all these steps, and then let me quickly run this application. So for the to run this Python app, so what you need to do, you need to write Python and then app.py, because our logic exists in app file, and then just let me hit enter. So now it will start running. If everything fine, yeah, it is running. Now let me go to this URL, and it will be opening here. Now you see here. So this is the content of basic index.html. So guys, I have not done a very beautiful designing, because here that is not the scope to explain you how HTML or CSS works. Here a very basic thing. So I have now I can just I can explain you by correlating these things, right? So now if you go to index.html, so here at the very top we have a form here, and then in the form we have input type is file, right? So this is the browse button coming from this line of code. And then using this button, we have this submit button, right? The moment I browse this button and then submit, then this will be coming here in the predict function, because in that submit I'm calling this predict, and here the request.file, this file will be read. Okay, so let me browse it. So from browse I can just do xtest, because this xtest I have created from that Jupyter notebook, right? So in that we have prepared data method. So now I'm reading xtest, and with that xtest let me submit, and you can see the output in a moment here. Yeah, so here we see the output. So here basically, as I said here in this app.py, so I have converted this data frame to JSON basically. Okay, so here it looks like a JSON. So now here what columns we have: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and then predicted flower type. So for this we are predicting these things, because in the xtest we don't have a class type, because the class we are predicting, and then I'm just adding this predicted flower type as a class category. Okay. So now here, these are the indexes basically. So this is also not useful. And now here we have the data in the JSON format. So let me just copy here and quickly show in the Notepad++, so that you can understand it properly. And let me define the language as JSON. So here it is JSON. Okay. And then somewhere I can format it also. So do you know how to format? I think from view and form view word wrap, right? So yeah, exactly. So now here you see the so here if I just enter this thing, and then here we have like this data, right? So this is this is how every record looks like. So for first record, it is predicting as Iris setosa, and all for this also, and for this record, for example, it is predicting as Iris virginica. Okay, so now this our application is running locally, guys. So here it is running locally. If you see here, if you come here, so where is our terminal? So yeah, here you see 1.127.0.0.1, right? It is running locally. So now how to create a Docker container for this whole thing? Okay, so now this is the important part coming here. So now let me stop. So I just did Control C. So it is stopped running, and now create a Docker file for this whole thing. Okay. So in VS Code we have a very nice thing existing. So if you just do Control Shift and P, okay, then it will open this dialog. So guys, I'm repeating it again. So if you do Control Shift and P, then it will open this dialog. And then for me, add Docker file to the, it is showing at the very top, because I was doing certain experiment with Docker. But for you, if it is not visible at the top, what you can do, add Docker. The moment you type this, then it will come here. So you need to select add Docker files to the workspace. You select this, then it will have further options, like what kind of Docker file you are creating. I mean, for what application. Of course, I'm creating for Flask. You just select Flask. Then what is your app files? We have app.py. If you have certain other name like main.py, so you have to select that one. Okay. So app.py, you need to define the application port. So here I'm using 5002. So you can define 5002 and then hit enter. And then it is asking whether you want to include the Docker Compose file as well. So see, we are just learning. So we are in the very beginning phase. So don't go with Docker Compose. We'll do step by step. Okay, in next lecture maybe you can talk about Docker Compose. So just do know so that you don't get confused with any other file gets created. Okay, so now it is asking it already exists, so just do override. So now we have a Docker file here. So now it got created. Okay, so let me do these things. Okay, so now let's see what it has done basically for us. So basically it is so the very first line it is doing, like it is starting with the base image from Python 3.10 slim. Okay, so it is, so from where this image it will pick, so it will pick from docker.io, so Docker public repository, from where this image will be picked. So basically inside a container, so what is container logic basically, guys, right? So you might have heard a very famous line, okay, the application is running in my system and it is not running in other system. So that's the very basic idea, or basic but important idea why we want to go with containerized application. So in container, every dependency, every requirement is packaged and grouped together and put inside that container, and that then container gets running, so that whatever it needs to run that application, it gets everything packaged inside the container. Okay, so that's where the very first, like, base image, base Python image we need. But in our application we need 3.9, so I will just write 3.9. You can change anything you want. Okay, and what is the port? So here the second thing, like, you need to expose the port on which your application will be running inside Docker container. So that is the port number. Okay, so it should be same as you give here. Okay, so you define this 5002. If you define some other port, then it will take that one. Okay, it will not take this one. Okay, fine. So this is the second thing, and then these things you can ignore at the beginning, but let me explain what it is doing basically. But if you are very beginner to the Docker container, you can ignore this part as well. Okay, but what it is doing basically, it keeps Python from generating .pyc file in the container, because see it has created Docker ignore file as well, right? If you want to commit this code in the GitHub repository, then you don't want to commit each and every file generated, like some binary files or some .pyc files. So for that purpose, this is the thing. Okay, and then turn off buffering for easier container logging. So these two. So I'm just removing these two things, so that because as this point of time these are not required. Okay, and then let me copy this thing first, because first we need to define the working directory. So inside container, so see, inside container also, like, a file kind of a structure exists. So you just think there is a folder inside container, and inside that I'm creating the app folder. Okay, and that I'm making as a working directory. Okay, inside /app I'm creating, and then that I'm defining as a working directory, and then I'm copying whatever. So wherever we, so right now in my system I'm inside this folder. So that's what dot represent. So whatever inside this folder content, that will be copied to this app folder. Okay, that's what this is representing. And then inside requirement.txt, so by default, because this Docker file I have created from the VS Code thing, so that's where it has created the requirement.txt automatically. But what you can also do basically, guys, you can do pip freeze. Okay, and then rec.txt. Okay, so if you run this, then it will also create a requirement.txt, and it will have each and every package available here. Okay, but some package comes as a part of Flask, but here they have divided into individual label. Okay, so that's where, like, you don't get confused with all those things. Just simply go here and here. So just look into the app.py, and here what we need Flask, we need job lib, we need pandas, right? So that's where you define those things in the requirement.txt. So we don't have job lib, so just mention job lib. We don't have pandas, just mention panda. That's it. So this is the only thing we need. Okay, and we don't need this thing, so I'll delete this. But with that also you can go. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, so now we have this requirement.txt ready, and we have this Docker file. So here what I need to do, we need to copy this requirement.txt file inside this container. So that's what we are doing here, requirement.txt inside this container file. Okay, and see here, I'm just copying this inside this dot. But what you can also do, you can also copy inside this app directory. But then you have to define this dot/app here. Okay, this is the thing. So wherever you keep your file, see, inside container also there is a folder like structure. So wherever you keep your requirement.txt file, you need to give that complete path. Okay, so you can just play around these things basically. There is no problem. not I have just copied this here. Okay, yeah. So now so we have yeah, I was explaining this. Yeah, so I was telling you like just you can copy your requirement.txt either inside this app folder or you can copy also inside this. So don't worry, you can just experiment by doing both the things. It won't make any difference. Okay. So now we have requirement.txt ready. So what you need to do basically, you have all the requirement defined inside requirement.txt. What you need to do? So you need to write a Python -m pip install -r requirement.txt. So what you can do, you can remove this Python -m not required. You can simply do pip install -r requirement.txt. Okay. So these are the normal process we follow basically. But if you write that Python -m, so that will also work. So no need to worry. That's where I say, guys. So in programming word, you learn by experimenting different things. And if you get error, then you get to know, okay, what is exactly happening. So that's fair. So you need to experiment multiple. If you have any doubt, then just run with that command and then see how it is behaving. But okay, let me tell you that will also work. Okay, so no need to worry. So that is one thing. And then here simply it is inside the container, it is trying to create a user. So at this level, we don't need, but let me explain you what it is doing. Basically, it is creating a not root user with an explicit user ID and adds permission to access that app folder. Okay. So using add user. So this is the command, but as I said, like we are the beginner here. So don't go to the like very advanced thing. So I'm just creating very basic Docker file. Okay. So now here we have a basic image Python 3.9. We have a port exposed. We have a working directory. Inside that working directory, I have copied everything. And then I'm copying the requirement.txt also and then running this command. So these steps will be executed sequentially. And then finally, we have Gunicon. There's as in production, we want to run using the Gunicon as a web server. And then here I'm just exposing this like 0.0.0 IP and then inside 5.2 port because it's the same port. Okay. And then I'm defining the app, whatever my app file. If you are using main.py, then you need to define here main. Okay. So our Docker file is ready. Now the next thing is like we need to run this Docker file to generate an image. So for that, before running, make sure you have a Docker desktop running. So you need to open Docker desktop. So let me open. So now my Docker desktop is opening. Here at the beginning, you see there is no image inside this image and there is no container running because I have removed everything so that I can show you freshly. Okay. So let me minimize it. And so I have copied all the command here. So I will just give this file to you as well. Okay. So that you can run. So let me do one thing. So sometime if you have the capital letter, then it gives you problems. So let me do this thing. So I'm just building that image. So here, let me run this. Okay, Docker build -t ML Docker image. You can define any name basically, guys. Okay, and then you can define the version also. If you don't want to define the version, then just remove this much part. Okay, and then dot means it will create here, and then hit enter. So now you guys see here it started building. So if you just closely follow these steps, so it will start these in a sequential manner. Okay. So first, so let me by the time it is doing. So see. So first it is doing like so second like working directory. So that is the second. Okay. Of course, it will expose that port and it will first download this Python 3.n from that Docker IO Docker Hub, and then okay. So it is executing basically, and then so let me quickly show you. Okay, so see here. So it is copying, creating the working directory. Then as a third step, it is copying everything inside that app and then copying requirement.txt into the root folder and then running pip install -r requirement.txt. Okay, and then it is exporting the image and then writing the image here. So now here it has registered this image into inside docker.io. If you go inside this URL, then you will see this file exists. Okay, because I have not restricted anything. And I also removed that user creation part, right? So this is publicly available image, so you can get in docker.io also. Okay, and then it will also be available in my this Docker desktop. Now you see here ML Docker image version 1. This is simply just now got created. Okay, now the next thing, as I was explaining here, see here what we have achieved. We have created Docker. Of course, we have done these two things. And we have also seen how our application is running. So now we have done a Docker file we have created. We have built this Docker file. Next is like creating the container, running it. So how we can do? So we have a command for that. So no need to worry. I'll explain this command as well. So here, let me keep, because we have this image. Okay. So like this, and then let me copy this and then here let me paste it here. Okay, so now let me explain you what is happening here. So here if you see, so let me just do this thing, okay, so that is properly visible. So now here docker run, okay, so this is the basic command, and then what -dp is doing, the -d means detached mode, so that it won't look like in running mode in your terminal, so that your terminal will be free for other work. Okay, so that is the mean by detached mode. And p means defining a port. So this 8081 is the external port which is mapped with the 5002 of application port, that application running inside the container. So the application which is running inside the container, that is referring the port as 5002. But here, like outside this, the container will expose one API, so that will accept HTTP request on this 8081 port. Okay, so that is the meaning of this. And then we have TI, and then basic other things like a name. So name means you can define the container name here. If you are not defining any container name here, then it will create some random named container. Okay, so it will generate some random string, and it will create a container with that name. And then here after that you can define the image name, whatever image you have created in the previous step. So if you have defined the version, then of course give with the version. If you have not defined the version, then don't give with the version. And now the moment I am going to hit enter, it will so now before hitting enter, let me show you. If you go to Docker desktop, then here inside the container there is no container running. Okay, so there are two ways to run this container. You can come to this image, you can just hit this run button, then also it will start running the container, or like by using this command. So anyway you can do this thing. Okay, so let me hit enter, and if everything is right, we are lucky, then our container will be up. Okay, all the best. Yeah, now let's see. So as you see here, one more thing. So now our terminal is free for other work. We can do any other work here. Okay, so that's the advantage of using D here. And now let's come to this container, and now see it is up and running here. Okay, so now it is running. Just 12 seconds ago we have run. So now you can open this localhost 8081 port and see if our application is running. Now very good, it is running, right? So we can close this local one, and this is running, right? So now same thing, guys. If you are within any server, then it will take that server URL, but port whatever we have defined. So we have deployed locally using Docker container, so steps will be same. Doesn't matter where you are deploying. If you are working everything in a server like in office provided system, then every steps will be same. Okay, so no need to worry. Now let me browse. So xtest, so and then submit, and then if everything is fine, then you will see the output here. Okay, something, there seems some problem. Okay, let's see. A problem is coming, that's good, right? We can do something. Okay, so it is telling, okay, no module named sklearn, so it is expecting sklearn also, right? So we need to install that sklearn. So we forget to mention that sklearn in our requirement.txt file, right? So we need sklearn as well. So let's mention this, and let's build this Docker image again, okay, with version 2. So let me stop that. So guys, that's where here if you come to container, and if you go here and view detail, inside you can see like what is the problem. Okay, because now it is running inside your container, so these log will not be visible in your VS Code, it will be visible here. Okay, so let's see, like it is expecting sklearn. So let me and let me see if it is expecting anything else. Okay, yeah, so sklearn should suffice. So I have defined sklearn here, and then let me build the image again. So this is the image building command, and here I'm doing in version 2. So let me stop it here. So unnecessary, it's not consuming my memory, and let me delete also, because this is a buggy, so we don't need it. Okay, so let's keep that image, that's fine, so that I can show you. Okay, two images will be created. So now let me hit enter, and it is creating another image. So now it will install that scikit-learn as well. Okay, so let's wait. So here if you visualize, so it is downloading and it is doing everything. It will take some fraction of seconds. So now if you go to here images, so you can keep refreshing here, and another image in a moment, another image. Yeah, see now version 2 came here, right? And now this time, let me show you, like we can run this container. So of course you can run this container from here as well, right? We have everything same. You can just write version 2. But let me run this container this time from here, okay? So see how it is behaving. So now here, guys, from here we are running the container. We have not defined any container name or anything. You can define the container name from here, okay? And you can define the port here, like I'm going to give 8081, okay? And host path, leave it. It will take by default 000 and container name I'm not defining, so that it will take the some random container name, and let me hit run, okay? So now if you come here, so see in the container, see our container is running here, okay? And if everything is fine, so we'll see the output this time. So let me take this and see this, and let it seems there is some more bug. Okay, no problem, we'll resolve that one. Okay, so it is still saying sklearn is not available. Why? But we have done that, so whether I have not saved or what, just a minute. Okay, so for a safer side, let's do one thing. So what I was telling, guys, so let me erase this thing, and see, so we have requirement.txt. So what we can do, so whatever, so as I was telling you, so it will basically create everything. So rec.txt. Okay. So it will create a rec.txt, and here we'll see like all the dependencies. So don't go with the shortcut method like we need only these things, otherwise it will give error. So just do pip freeze, and it will give you all the dependency, what all things we need. Okay. So here, see here we will be having a cycle. So we don't need this pywin because this is not required. Okay. So this we can remove, and here we have scikit-learn and everything else. So okay. So that's fine, and let me just run it, and then we have a numpy. Where is numpy? It should be there. So just a minute. Yeah, so let me do this 21 version, otherwise it creates a problem. Okay, and then we don't need this requirement.txt, and in this Docker file we have 3.9, and then here we need rec.txt, rec.txt, and then rec.txt. Okay. So now you will understand also what is happening basically. Okay. So now let me build the image again. So Docker build -t. So now we are getting version 3. Okay. So let me delete these images. Otherwise, it takes sometimes it takes those references and then it creates a problem. So to delete this, first we need to remove this container, and then let me delete this image so that it freshly create the image. Okay. Don't take dependency from the older images. Okay, so now let me build I mean this. Okay, so now it is downloading, and it will create the image. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. Okay, so now you see like it has created this image with version 3. So now if you go here, so with version 3, we have got this new image. Of course, I have deleted previous images so that those you don't see. Okay, so now let me just run this container. So what is, yeah, Docker run -dp 8081 and 5002, and then yeah, so this is fine. So here we have version 3 image, so we need to define that version, and then yeah, hit enter, then so one new container will be running up and running. So let's see what is happening here, and I'm hoping this time everything will be fine. So yeah, exactly. So now you got it, right? So now this is running. So now you see, guys, here in locally I'm not running anything. Our container is up and it is running. Okay, right? So now if you are in the server and if you close this system, local system, then also this API will be keep on running. Okay, so you don't need to worry that one. So now this is how you can give the HTTP request, and in the submit it is calling this method, this app.py. So this predict method, right? And here we have certain logic to predict basically, guys. Okay. Now next thing is like, let's see how to call this like I mean how to do this in the curl request. So let me open an Anaconda prompt. So guys, I'm just opening a different Anaconda prompt. So there is no specific reason you can run this curl request here also in this terminal also. Okay, but I just want to show in the separate terminal so that you don't get confused, like here everything is linked and it cannot be run in anywhere else. Okay, so that's why let's see if curl is here. Okay, fine. Okay, and now let me run this curl command. So for that, okay. Yeah. So yeah. So now one thing, guys, here you need to define like in which path your file exists, xtest.csv, right? So in instead of defining that path, we can go directly to that path, or we can define that path as well here. Okay, so basically here, what you need to do, you need to define the path where your xtest.csv is. So let me get the path and copy that complete path here. Okay, so here you can copy that path. So I just copied, and yeah, so this is where my CSV file exists. This is how you can define basically, guys. Okay, this thing basically, and then here this is run. So my application is running on 8081 port, so that you can define here 8081. Okay, and now predict. So guys, here I'm calling the predict function directly, because that is our that's where our complete logic is there, and that accept this CSV file. So indirectly this is our API. Okay, this becomes our API. And again I'm telling, if you are running in any server, so that this local host will take automatically that server URL, that server domain. That's not a problem. And this is how you can pass this CSV file. Okay, and using curl. So normally, okay, and now if I hit enter, and if everything is right, then it should give us the same JSON result. Yeah, so now you see here, same JSON result we got. And then if you see here from data, so we have this prediction for every record. So like this is one record and this is one record. So every record we have the prediction. Yeah. So now our application is running. And now if I stop here, I can stop here, and then if I just hit the same API, it will not give me the result. It will say, okay, this is not running. See, failed to connect to localhost port, this connection refused. And if simply I just restart it here, okay, then it will work. Okay, so hit enter, it will give me the result. Yeah, see, so that's it. See, yeah, now your API is running using Docker container. Yes, so that's the advantage. Now here, like if you want to see like the outputs, like we are getting certain error, so these error will be shown here inside the log. And then here we have terminal, guys. Now here, if you in terminal, you can see which folder you are. So by default, you are in the app folder. Okay, and then here you can do ls, and you can see what all files exist. See, guys, see here, we have copied app.py, we have copied model.pickle file, we have copied rec.txt, and of course it has copy requirement.txt also before. Okay, but we don't need these things. Okay, so it our dependency will be installed from here, because this is rec.txt we have defined as a Docker file. And then static and templates, everything is here, right? And now, guys, suppose in a template, so for example, you go to templates folder, right? And we are inside templates, yeah, just to make sure. And if you do ls here, index.html is there. Okay, and there is slight change you want to do in the index. For example, instead of that submit button, we want to rename that submit button. Then of course you need to of course you need to install that here apt-get. First you need to do upgrade update, basically apt-get update. Okay, so it will update the apt-get, and then using apt-get you can install apt-get get install Vim. So you can install the Vim editor, because Vim editor by default doesn't exist. And now if you have installed, then yeah, so now using Vim editor, so you can do index.html, you can do editing. So now, and now you press I. So here you can come here and then submit, and you can define me, submit me. Okay, what a nice name. And then you just do escape and colon WQ and exclamation Q. So now it is saved. Okay, so now you just come here and you just stop here. You need to restart the terminal. Okay, and now if you restart it again, and now if you just open here, so it should Now see here, submit B. So that's what I was telling. If you need to change a little bit somewhere in the text or something, right? So then you can do directly inside, going inside the terminal basically. Okay. So guys, this is all about for today's lecture. So what we have covered, just to summarize, of course, we started with basic model training. So I'll be sharing the whole thing in a folder, a zip folder, so that you can run everything together. We trained the model, we created an API using Python Flask, and then we created a Docker file. We understood the content of the Docker file, we built that Docker file and got the image, and then we created and run the container, right, in detached mode. And then we tested using HTTPS request, and we also tested using curl request, right? And then we seen like inside the terminal, like how you can install any package directly inside that container. And for example, you remember we were getting error sklearn is not available, but what we could have also done directly inside the container, we could have installed sklearn, right? So that is also one way. But again guys, I'm telling, so this is very risky to do perform any operation inside your container, because that might break if you're not the expert, right? So that's why it's not suggestible to do anything changes there. Come back, update your Docker file, and then redeploy, because it's just like 10 to 15-minute job, right? So that's the advisable. So that's it for today's video. I hope you liked the video, and whatever we explained together, you also executed together. So that's all for today's guys. So thank you very much, and we'll meet you next time. So that's all. So thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe my channel and share in the ML community. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.